Yeah, he said he fulfilled his lifelong dream.
All right, so I'll have to see what we can do to make sure that we only pay him in giant checks.
Yeah, it's paycheck.
Yeah. Every other Friday, I'll show you.
Yeah.
Bring it a little quicker. Yep, yes.
Okay, welcome everybody. I'm really glad you're able to join us today. I'm not sure who knows this in the room, but IEEE is a student group, student organization, brand new on campus. We just got recognized earlier this semester. And one of the goals working with the student leaders is to try to provide more connections with industry. So you really, as part of getting you prepared for the job market, knowing what opportunities are out there, what you'd like to do, what companies are looking for. And this is the very first of hopefully many of these types of events that are designed to provide those types of connections to industry. So that being said, I'm not really going to talk. I'm going to let the student leaders run the show, hear from our panelists, and then we really want to emphasize that what we really want from you guys, once we kind of get the ball rolling here a bit, is to get questions from all of you folks, okay? Because we want to make sure that you're getting the information that you want. So anything that you're wondering about, you're curious about, this is a great time today to ask questions and to learn as much as possible. And then we've got way too much pizza too. So eat up. I really encourage you to get fat, you know, and just stock up because we definitely overbought. So, all right, with that being said, I'm going to pass it over to Vashuda. She is the IEEE Student Chair.
Thank you, Professor Markle. And on behalf of IEEE Student Chapter University at Albany, I welcome you all for our first big event on campus that is a job panel discussion with the highly experienced panel members. Thank you all for coming, and special thanks to our panel members for taking out their valuable time out of their busy schedule and helping our students understand what is actually in how industries work and let them fulfill their dreams. So I would like to introduce Bill Hoffman, Chief Technical Officer, Kitware; Natalie Manarino, Senior Talent Acquisition Specialist from Infrastructure; David Drusansky, Chief People Officer from Automate; Mark Raymond, PhD, Senior Member of Technical Staff and Manager, Global Foundries. Please give a big round of applause to them. Now please feel free to clarify your doubts and grab the opportunity to ask anything you want from the honorable guests. Now I'll hand over the place to Namra.
Hello. Hi guys, thank you for coming. I would like to start off this question and answer discussion from our panelists. If you guys could please introduce yourselves and your company's mission shortly. Starting off.
Okay. I'm Mark Raymond. I work for Global Foundries, as was mentioned during the introduction. Basically what we are is a contract manufacturer of advanced semiconductors. So a lot of the things that are enabled for a more connected world and so forth start with that semiconductor that's in that black box, if you will, that drives a lot of things. And as you all are very aware, being in the area that you're in, more and more things that we all own are chock full of semiconductor materials. So as I mentioned, we're a contract manufacturer. We have many customers, and we build these advanced chips for various companies around the world, and then they put their brand on it and resell.
My name is Dave Jasinski. I'm the Chief People Officer over at Albany Dealership Systems. And my company is a very unique niche software company. We actually develop enterprise software that runs new car dealership business operations. So if you think about the car buying experience at a dealership, our software runs the entire sales process, the financing process. We run the parts counter, the service shops. We do all the back office accounting. And what makes our software really unique as well is we interface with a number of third-party integrators. So ones you might be familiar with, Cars.com, AutoTrader, Carfax. We currently interface with over 1,000 separate third-party applications. So it makes it pretty unique, and we're constantly looking to add to the software engineering staff as we continue to build applications and grow.
Hi, I'm Bill Hoffman. I'm one of the founders of Kitware Incorporated. We're a company headquartered in Clifton Park, New York. The original company started from 5 people that worked at GE's Global Research in Niskayuna. And we're a scientific computing company focusing on open source software. The company originally started around an open source toolkit called the Visualization Toolkit, or VTK, which takes data and creates 3D images and interactive visualizations. The core is C++, but it's wrapped into other languages. We've grown out from there. We have a computer vision group that does machine learning on computer vision. We also have a scientific computing and high-performance computing group, visualization group, a medical imaging group, a data and analytics group, and a software process group. So some open source software that we've created that you might have heard of. We create the CMake build system for C++. We also have VTK, ParaView. We were heavily involved with ITK, the Insight Toolkit, which was an effort by the National Library of Medicine to take the state-of-the-art in segmentation and registration of medical imagery and codify it in an open source library that was available to the public. And we were part of the team that worked on that. So that's sort of in a nutshell what we do. We've got these 5 areas, and we focus on open source software, and we do scientific software. I'll pass it on.
I'm Natalie, and at Infrastructure we provide end-to-end solutions for our customers, for enterprise-level companies. So from the ground up, we'll build out their technology solutions, whether it's in the networking space, digital workplace modernization, security fortification, and we'll handle everything from design, building it out, and managing and supporting it for our customers. We really specialize in the managed services that we provide. There's 2 of our customers, so we can provide that end-to-end support for all of our customers.
All right, thank you, Pam. So broadly speaking, what's your company looking for in qualified applicants?
Just do it on the row again. I think to speak of it in general, I basically look for somebody that has solid fundamental background and knows how to learn and think. I think in a nutshell, that's what I primarily look for. In fact, we've been hiring some folks into my group and some other groups that I work with, and we're actually taking people that are not necessarily from the semiconductor industry, but we found that they have some unique skills along with a solid fundamental material science or physics background, chemistry, but they know how to think and ask questions, and then we can teach them the rest of it. We can teach them our industry. They need to come with those fundamentals background, which is what you guys are doing now, right, as students.
Yeah, I would say somewhat similar. Over at Automate, we typically hire a lot of software engineers, web developers to work on the back end of our applications, the front end, that the users are using. And then also, when I was talking about our data integrations, we have an open API. We've got a team of engineers that run that allow for all the communication of the data back and forth between the other systems. But when we're looking for people to join our team, it's not just about the technical skills. So obviously, we've got a certain bar that we're setting that we expect people will have. You know, and I think that one thing that students need to be prepared for as you're going out to do these interviews are, we're moving into a time where people are saying, okay, it's great that you say you have the skills, but we want you to be able to prove it. So the interviews are, you know, consisting of a lot of whiteboard exercises, you know, doing different sorts of things. So, you know, we're really looking for people that can think on their feet, that can respond to challenges, you know, kind of in a group setting. We were discussing earlier that my company is kind of unique in that our software engineers will interface directly a lot with our customers. So when we develop a new software platform or, you know, a new feature, they'll actually work with our beta customers to test it out. When we have our user summit, they'll go out on site to the user summit, you know, to demo all of the software and show off all the cool things that they've been working on. You know, so it's really a combination of those technical skills and the soft skills. And one last thing I'll add, I think that a lot of companies, especially ours right now, put an emphasis on the culture fit. You know, so it's one thing, do you have the skills to do the job, but it's a completely separate thing, do you have the skills to do the job in our environment? And you know, what's a match in our environment might be very different than Global Foundries, might be very different than Kitware infrastructure. You know, so really taking the time to research the companies, you know, prior to the interview, understanding the environment, and you know, being prepared to whether or not you're a good fit for the culture as well.
I think at Kitware, one of the things we look for is, obviously we do a lot of open source software, so experience with one of our toolkits is obviously a plus and an advantage for students, you know, that, and I think it's, you know, at least if you're in the software industry, open source software is a huge advantage for students that I think is underutilized. I mean, you've got access to the source code for Linux, right? An operating system. Various scientific software out there. You can actually get in there and figure out how this stuff works, add stuff to it. We look for, you know, people that have experience on GitHub, you know, not just maybe with a class project, but, you know, actually getting involved in an open source project. That can be a huge discriminator, right? If we've got, and also, you know, kind of like what you said, if someone puts something down on their resume, we're going to take them to task. If you say you know C++, but you know, had it in a programming language class and you spent a week on it, you're probably not going to make it through the phone screen. But if you have some other skill and you didn't put C++, but you had that other skill and you got picked, you know, that might be to your advantage. So just sort of smattering stuff all over your resume doesn't necessarily help your case. It may get you in the door, but it probably wouldn't get you very far. So, you know, we are looking, you know, and looking for experience and people that actually understand how things work. You know, so a lot of times the questions might be on, you know, how computer memory works. You know, what's the difference between stack and heap memory? You know, that stumbles up students to no end to me, which, you know, tells me that, you know, they went through school, but they didn't actually understand, you know, some of the basic fundamentals of how a computer works, which means they're going to have a really hard time, you know, coding complicated scientific algorithms. And you know, but Kitware is also a broad thing, so it depends on which position. You know, if you're looking for a computer vision researcher versus more of a software developer, you're going to have a different set of skills. But I would say, you know, represent what you actually know and try to dig deep. You know, while you're in school, you've got some time. You know, maybe do an independent project where you dig deep into an open source project, and it can bring you a long way.
We recruit for a wide variety of positions. We're a very project-based company, so it really kind of depends on our customer needs and what they're looking for at that time. But for the technical positions that we recruit for, we do a lot of like network engineers, system admins. We have a small applications team that we do support for our customer as well. But for those positions, if you, especially networking, if you have a Cisco certification, that is something that we do look for. And having the initiative to kind of go out of your education and your internships to kind of learn on your own is something that we look for in the candidates that we recruit for and eventually hire. We also do a lot of work with project managers, technical project managers who have experience on the back end and understand working with technical subject matter experts. So if they have the background and looking and willing to learn, new and emerging technologies. That's really kind of what we look for as we're growing and IT is ever changing. So, yeah.
All right, so let's say an applicant sends in their resume and you think they're the perfect fit based off the resume. So what advice would you give to the qualified applicant preparing for an interview for your specific company?
Same back. So I think prepping for the interview, certainly know something about the company. And I think that's probably universal. You don't just walk in and you don't even know what the company does. Do you need to know every facet and understand every detail? No. No one expects that of you, but I think that's a very important aspect. At least shows some initiative and interest that, yeah, this is really a job. I don't want to just collect a paycheck. I'm actually interested in your company. As far as prepping, school, past work experience, that just kind of comes along. One of the things you might prep if you were interviewing with my team is we always go find where your corners are. We will push you to your corner of what you know and then push you over the edge. And we all, so that's part of the personality part that fits, is we want to see how you fit. And my team, anybody we bring in, our team is strong enough that we will make you fit, but it's okay. We want to find out where your corners are and see how you react. So don't try to BS my team, because you're not going to be able to. So what we're usually looking for is find where your edge is, push you over the edge, and see how you extrapolate. And that kind of tells me something about your fundamentals. So being prepped to be prepared to be off balance sometimes, because I'm assuming any of these teams are going to do the same thing, to really understand how you think on your feet, how you might fail on something, and it's okay to say, I just don't know that, but I think, and show us that in my mind, those are a couple of the things that we look for.
Yeah, I would definitely echo the sentiment of do a little bit of research on the company. One of the things that we're looking for is, even when we do get the perfect resume, we're looking for the people who don't just want a job, they want our job. So we're not looking for somebody that's just, willing to settle on any software engineering job. We want people that have researched our company, they know what we do, they know what our mission is, they know about the software that they develop, and they basically are coming in and saying, and you have to keep in mind that we're receiving, hundreds of resumes, for open positions. So I want that person that's coming in and saying, no, I want your job. I did research. This is why I think that I'm going to be a good fit for your team. And they're showing the passion, that they really want to contribute, that they're excited about the opportunity. I think one thing, that's a turnoff. I think we're one of the companies, I don't know how many people are still doing this, but looking at cover letters. We actually changed our cover letter section so that we're not asking necessarily for a cover letter anymore. We're asking individuals for their why statement. Does anybody in here know what your why statement is? Cool book. You'll want to read it when you get into business world, but it's a book by Simon Sinek, and it's called Find Your Why, or Start With Why, rather. And really what the book is all about is finding out what is your passion in life, what gets you up, what wakes you up and drives you to do what you do every day. So a lot of people look at a company and they say, well, you just exist to make a profit. Well, that's the end result of what you do, but why are you doing it? What makes you get up and drive? And that's the root of what we're looking for in people that is really going to separate you from other applicants.
I'm going to repeat it because repetition is really good. Do your research on the company. It's amazing how many times you'll bring someone in and they'll just have no clue what we do. I mean, we even did this with some interns. We were interviewing interns and we asked each of them, what does Kitware do? And some of them just couldn't answer. It's like, couldn't you bother reading the web page? It's not just a job. We're looking for someone who's interested in it. And in Kitware, we have a little bit of a more unique side of things in that we do have open source software. So, download some of that. I tried building your software. I ran your software. I did this. Even if you're not using it, but if you're going to do an interview at Kitware, download some of the software, take a look at it. Maybe even ask some questions about it, or give some thoughts on how it can be used, or ask some questions about it. Ask about the business model. How does Kitware make money giving away software? ask interesting questions like that, and try to show interest in the company and do your research on the people that are going to be interviewing you and the company you're going in. And also, make sure you know the stuff on your resume. If you listed some skill, you'll probably get quizzed on it. So, essentially you've got the cheat sheet there because, it kind of reminds me of, we do a lot of government work, and a lot of times the government will ask you to create policies that govern your company. And they give you fairly large latitude on what those policies can be. But once you put it down in word that that's your policy, they may send an auditor into your company and say, show me how you do this. And if you're not actually doing what you wrote down, you can get in a lot of trouble. And what you're doing might be absolutely fine, but if you said you were doing A and you're actually doing B, even though B is okay, if you said you're doing A, you can actually get in a lot of trouble. So, don't put stuff down on your resume that you don't actually know, because that'll get you in trouble.
As it was mentioned before, at Infrastructure, culture fit is really important to us. So even if you do have the perfect resume and have all the languages or technical skills that the hiring manager is looking for that specific position, it might not be a fit because of the culture fit, and you might not work with that specific team. And as everybody else has mentioned, having knowledge of the company and an understanding of what the company does. You might not know exactly what everything the company does, but just having an understanding and just trying to want to learn more about the company, and as you said, mention asking questions about the company and becoming prepared with questions to ask to the recruiter and the hiring managers is also very important, both for in-person interviews and phone screens too.
Hi, yes. My name is Emmanuel. I'm currently an undergraduate first year here at the university. I also serve as communications head for the IEEE University branch. And as an undergraduate like myself, I always quite often wonder things that, kind of impede on my persistence when it comes to looking for jobs, looking for internships. Questions that I ask myself would be things like, am I good enough? Or what is the limitation that I need to meet in order to be acceptable for this kind of job, this kind of position? So what are some things that each of your companies can do for me, a student who's just trying to get involved in something, acquire an internship, require some sort of connection with someone in the industry? What can you do for me that can try to help me get ahead or try to reassure me that this is the skill set that I have and this is what I need in order to be accepted?
Anyone, feel free to answer. Open discussion.
I would say maybe make a connection with somebody at the company to kind of like help mentor you if you meet with somebody at a career fair and just say, hi, I'm interested in potential internships opportunities at your company. What would you look for down the line, maybe in the fall or in the spring? What can I do to improve, or what can you see from me that would be beneficial for you? I would say keeping that communication with a recruiter or a hiring manager and keeping that contact there, just to follow up maybe every month or every 2 months, just to check in, to say, is that opportunity still available? Just kind of squeaky wheel against the grease. So.
That sounds good.
I would also add to that, so much of this nowadays is just building your network and networking. I think that I've got a few people that are in this room right now that I met briefly at a Hack Tech Valley event a couple of months back. We connected on LinkedIn, stayed in touch. It's really all about, reaching out to people. For the most part, if you reach out to somebody, and not being like so overly pushy, but if you reach out in a very respectful manner and say, listen, I'm just trying to find a way to break into this industry. Do you have any advice for me? You have to remember, everybody's been in your shoes. So they're going to want to reach out, and they're going to want to help you. And frankly, a lot of them will feel flattered that you reached out to them to ask for that help. So that's what I'd really say is don't be afraid to go out. Use, the networking events, like you said, the career fairs are a great way to go out, and meet with people. I would say that building a relationship with the HR team in a company, because they can give you a lot of information, kind of on the soft skills, what they're looking for. But I think so many students try to reach out just to the HR people and just to the recruiters, and feel free to reach out to the software engineers, the people that are doing the job that you want to do, and say, how did you land this job? You look like you're very successful in this role. What are you doing differently? How did you prepare for this role? I know that I can kind of help guide your experience.
Okay, thank you.
If I could just add a little bit, that not so much different than what you've already said, but I just wanted to emphasize the networking, meaningful networking. It's not a numbers game, so you're not just out there just trying to collect friend collectors, right? I'm amazed at how many people try to connect with me on LinkedIn. I have no clue who they are. And so it's immediate, don't. Rejection, but a meaningful network and asking for that advice. Not, you might not even be looking for a position, or maybe and somewhere down the road you might be looking for a position, but making those connections, asking for advice, and maybe that person doesn't have something in your area, but ask for advice on, hey, I'm looking at this other company or this other area in your company, and approach it from that way. But meaningful, I think, is important.
Right. Thank you.
I'd like to add something on the open source software side of things. If there's a company you're interested in and they do have something out there in open source, get on their GitHub thing, try to contribute something.
Okay.
Go look at their bug list. A lot of times, they'll have a, contributors area. If you're just starting out, you've got 2, 3, 4 more years or whatever to work on something. And if you made it a goal to go after a certain technology or a company, I can't see how you could fail, if you actually pursued it that way. And then the second advice would be just, what you're doing right now. Whenever you get a chance, talk in front of a crowd. Try to ask questions and sort of sell yourself and meet people and don't, sitting in the corner is never going to get you anywhere.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
All right, guys, now we want to hear from you. What are some questions that you guys have?
One of my questions is, how important are extracurricular or leadership positions? Is it something that's just like a little help, or is that like a big, if somebody's been on the panel of IEEE or has started a club or has been a leader, even an unrelated club that had a leadership position, is that like a big thing, or is it just like a little help?
Okay, so the question was, how important are extracurricular activities? And
Allison, were you looking for leadership in activities or just in extracurricular activities?
Well, I guess in both, and the comparison, like if you're just a member of IEEE, obviously that means something, but the leader is more.
Yeah.
What's kind of the scale of that?
I would say that it is important that it shows that you do have, for example, if you're a treasurer on a club, it shows that you do have those coordination skills and have had those project management skills like down the line in your school experience to show that maybe I had that coordination, I can take charge of something and make this project work. And regardless of the position, what it is, it shows like that you can handle however many members, creating events for this club, and being a part of the club. And we know how many students don't belong to any clubs, so it does mean something.
I would say on top of that as well, so the leadership is always a benefit, but I wouldn't say that, unless you're looking for some sort of like an entry-level project management position or, a position where you're going to need those leadership skills right away, I don't think anybody's going to reject you just because you don't have that, but I think that, the one thing you have to remember is that we're frequently going through a wide pool of candidates, and, especially when it comes to interns, or, whether it be internship positions or entry-level associates, we don't have a proven work history, that we're going to rely on. So we don't have the references, that we can contact that show how you work in a team environment or whatnot. A lot of times we're relying on, the professors here, but those are the things that, can really help separate you apart from the crowd. When we've got it down to, hey, we've got 4 or 5 people who think they would all be great, do you do any, for Automate, I would say another thing is any volunteering. So it's not just what do you do to contribute to the technical community, but what are you doing to make Albany a better place, in the community that you live in. So it's just a combination of all those factors, and it could definitely be a differentiating.
I think, perhaps a quick comment, as my company, the broader range of my company, yes, I think there is some importance to that, and there's some, it makes it a little bit of a differentiator. And my particular team is maybe less so, but our group is more of a hard-nosed science technologist group. You got to get through those first gates, and then maybe if we have a couple candidates that are very close, we look for that differentiator. So in my particular instance, it's not super heavy that I would weigh it, but yeah, sure, those are important things. I mean, it helps generate your practice at networking too, being involved in those various types of clubs and activities and so forth. So yeah, I think they're helpful.
Sure, I think, like you said, I mean, a lot of times what we're looking for is the hard science or the hard software, but if you have that, plus you have that, then it's definitely gonna help you. And it may not be a small thing, right? It may be the thing that makes the difference. So it's certainly not a waste of time, if that's what you're asking.
Yes.
My question is that after creating a resume and creating several iterations of the resume and creating it perfect, even though the company gives a same typical reply that thank you for applying for this company. So is it that the international students require sponsorship, so you guys give a reject, or what is the scene? Like what should be done to be improved? Like every time we get a reject, like it's like just after submitting the resume and we get a reject. Nor we pass to the interview stage, it's like just submitting the resume and getting a reject.
So I think the question was that when you apply to an internship or a job, sometimes you get a instant rejection letter. Is that?
Yeah, so it happens like every time, like directly we get a reject and the reply is saying thank you for applying for this company, we have decided not to move.
Yeah, so do you guys have any idea why that happens, or any?
I mean, I guess the general question would be, what are some ways to go around, the sort of rejection from a company? Like, what are some things you can do specifically or have on your resume when you're applying that make you stand out? I'm guessing is kind of what the question is.
And it may be a particular challenge for if it's going to be an international component too. There's a question about sponsorship.
International students require sponsorship.
Right, international.
Yeah.
Is it that we get a reject or because we don't even get a offer for like interview, so it's like just submitting a resume and not even getting a chance to appear for interview.
All right, I'll jump on this one. I mean, like you said, for jobs, you might get a couple hundred resumes. So out of that, we might, phone screen 5 and bring in 2. So there's, 95 people that got thanks for your resume. So it really has to do with a fit in the job, right? And going after the job and some of the other stuff we've been talking about, and certainly Kitware spends, I know, a fortune on paying for people's green cards and H1s and all kinds of visas. So we don't reject people out of just for that. And like I said, with our company, we've hired people from overseas that have experience with our toolkit, right? They've been programming in VTK for 2 years while they've been in school, and we know when they come into Kitware, they're going to be able to hit the ground running because they already know our software, and we've seen them develop code and contribute it to the open source community. So we know and trust them, and we're willing to take that gamble. But if someone comes in, and says they look like they might be able to learn it, but maybe don't have the skills exactly what we're looking for, but someone else does, we're going to pick someone that does. So the closer your skills fit the job, and that would sort of go back to your question, and really sort of maybe targeting a few companies or an industry and spending some quality time planning the attack and building up your resume and focusing on a few areas would be a good way to get around that problem.
I was going to say, I can't really speak on behalf of the companies that you're applying for while you're getting the rejection disposition, but there could be a wide variety of things. Sometimes rejection letters come after somebody has accepted a position, so you might have applied just when somebody's accepted, or it just wasn't the right fit for that time. Maybe you applied to the position too early when they're looking for somebody right now and you're looking for May. You know, so it really kind of depends, I would say. Can't really talk on behalf of the company that sent you that, but there's a wide range.
Two things. One kind of goes back to the topic that we mentioned earlier about networking. Every single one of my jobs that I've had over the years has never been applying to some website that didn't exist then, but you know, just writing letters and sending resumes to corporate headquarters. Not a single one of my jobs ever came from that. It was all about people that I had connected with either through my professors, or I had a co-op job, making connections, people that I've met over the years. Even as a graduate student, I knew another graduate student that got a job somewhere, and making connections through that person. Actually, he ended up becoming my boss at one point. But I think that just shows the importance of the networking. Then the other piece is, I guess I can't necessarily speak to the systems. The system that I work in, for any position that I have in my company, I'm the one that rejects it. It's not just an automatic rejection or something, or an HR person screening it, because you know, we give like a set of criteria to the HR person and they screen for us. They don't do that. In our team, anyway, the research team, the individual managers, or sometimes we can delegate it out to some of our senior technical folks to actually screen, and we're, you know, like you said, a couple hundred, it's easy. That's very difficult to screen through that, but we do dig through them pretty, and it is really about matching. And again, we don't find a lot of people a lot of times that match exactly what we're after at that particular time. So out of the couple hundred that we get, or in my first job that I was digging for, I had about 500 applicants. It was something we were looking for about a year. That's why it was so many. And in the end, I hired one person. So the percentage of rejection is pretty high. So it is tough, I understand. I've been there many times, but work on the network, building the network, meaningful network, and just keep going at it.
Don't get discouraged.
And I want to make sure that we're asking your question as well. Were you asking specifically if you get an immediate rejection when you turn in your resume, or were you more looking at just what do you do if you eventually get a rejection?
I'm looking for like what would be done to improve, like what ways I should improve so that I get at least off of a
Okay, gotcha. So I would almost echo what everybody else has said so far. I also don't mind it when people reach out to me, especially college students that are seeking entry-level positions. If you were rejected for a position, just send a nice courteous note that says, hey, I'm just kind of curious, would you mind taking 5 minutes, to have a conversation with me and tell me, maybe what is something that you were looking for on my resume that I could have improved upon. I think that a lot of applicant tracking systems right now are being programmed to help people with the overwhelming responses that we're getting with resumes. So some of them will actually have algorithms based on certain keywords on the job description. If those words aren't showing up at a certain frequency on the resume itself, the system will put together an automatic rejection, or there might be pre-screening questions that if they might have automatic disqualifiers. And if you answer one of those questions and it doesn't match the response that they're looking for, they might send out an automatic notification. But really, I think you're going to hear it over and over again. Network, network, network. I got one of my first jobs. I was actually doing a fundraising triathlon. With a group of people, and I met a woman there, and she said, "Hey, I'm going to start a company in my basement. Do you want to join me?" Cool, let's do it. And we built it up, built it into a very large company, sold it off. It was an amazing experience, but one that job would have never been posted, on a job board. and I definitely wouldn't be where I am today if you didn't know that person and take that chance. So sometimes you just got to get out there.
Another quick comment. Something that I've found in my searching through the resumes is, and I'm not saying this is what your experience is, but what's happened with you, but I'm finding that I get a lot of folks applying to jobs because it appears that they're just in the numbers game and they're just applying to everything they possible. They didn't even read the requirements of the job posting. I'll be looking for somebody, it's a requirement to have a master's degree with 10 years experience and preferred PhD with 5 years experience. I've got undergraduates in the wrong field applying to my position. So that's an immediately done. So just make sure you're actually not overstretching and you're lining yourself properly with what the requirements are, the type of job.
So it seems workplace culture varies across the board depending on where you're going. And the interviews are structured on also testing your skills. So is there a balance of having a conversation, like just so I can ask questions about maybe their business model that I couldn't get maybe from a connection? Like I didn't manage to get connection with the company to get insight. So is there a way during the interview where I can find out more about their workplace culture or learn more about the company in another way? Because it did see, or how many interviews do you go through typically in your company? Okay, so the question was how many interviews go through at a time, and how can, during the interview process, how you can know more about the company's culture? Yeah, because I get like that the format of each interview might be a bit different. Like you said, you did phone screening interviews as well. So just how those work.
All right, so I can speak to how we do things at Kitware. Usually we'll do the resumes come in, we'll look through, we'll pick some, and then we'll send it off for technical phone screens. There might be 1 to 2 of these. There might be one that's more of a general fit interview that has some technical skills, some soft skills to see if there's a good fit, and then there might be one that maybe digs deep into one technical area. If you make it through that, then we'd invite you for an on-site interview, which we kick it off with you giving a presentation, like a half-hour to 45-minute presentation about yourself and your skills and your history, followed on by some questions. So that part of the interview takes about an hour, and then you get shifted around with people for the rest of the day, sort of an hour, maybe like a half hour with each person. They'll ask you questions on different skill areas. We'll cover things like math, programming skills, computer vision skills, depending on which thing you're interviewing for. And it's a two-way conversation, so you can ask questions as well. We do take the candidates out to lunch, which is a really good time for them to ask us questions. And that is something I do at interviews, and I like to hear the candidates at lunch, ask questions. What's it like to work at Kitware? What type of activities do people do at Kitware? What community involvement is there? Are there people that like hiking, running, triathlons? Whatever. It's a good time for you to ask questions about what it's like to be at the company. Usually that lunchtime, and then there's usually an interview with HR. To close the day, which would ask you questions, about salary expectations and some of your, and that would also be a good time for you to ask about like benefits and other issues like that.
Yeah, so we typically start off interview processes. We'll phone screen depending on the position. I would say maybe 5 to 10 candidates, and depending on how many openings we have for that certain position, we'll bring people in for an interview. We'll do 30 minutes HR, where we'll go over the company a little bit more in depth, answer all of your questions about the company that you may have, go into your background a little bit further, and your expectations and what you're looking for, career progression, salary expectations, availability, etc. And then we do a interview with the hiring manager and technical subject matter experts, typically an hour, and sometimes there needs to be an additional person interviewing. They'll take a half hour after that.
bouncing around. But I just wanted to know, a couple of you mentioned earlier that there were some things that you prefer a student or just a potential employee to have the general interest in the company, something that they actually know they want to be a part of the team. So just in an attempt to build student morale, could you all just describe to me, what are some reasons why you particularly chose to work at the company that you're at?
That's a good question. So infrastructure is a very fast-paced company, so it's high volume, a lot of work, there's a lot of moving pieces going on all the time, and I kind of really enjoy working in a fast-paced environment. So there are those days that are super crazy, but infrastructure has such a great environment where the people and the culture around you really kind of get you through the crazy days. It's really fun, we like to have fun, but it really, when I met with our SVP of HR, I was like sold within the first 30 seconds, and I was like, I need to work here. But we hope to carry that through all of our interviews, but definitely the culture is what made me stay and want to work there.
Okay, well, I'm sort of probably unique. I'm one of the founders of Kitwire, so I didn't really ever interview at Kitwire. So yeah, I figured if the company made it 2 years, it wouldn't look bad on the resume. So we just hit 20 years. So it's been a good thing. I've had sort of 2 jobs after college. I had a couple internships prior, and that was really helpful. I mean, I spent a summer writing C code.
Wow.
So 40 hours a week, and that really gave me a boost. It was like I think like junior year and junior summer in college, and that helped me, really hit the ground running. And then I got a job at GE Research. That was actually in a program called the Software Technology Program, where they paid for my master's degree at RPI and paid me to work too, so it was kind of both. And then I ended up staying at the research center. I actually was sponsored by, I used to live in Florida, and I was sponsored by the GE in Daytona Beach. And I was supposed to be here 2 years ago. 2 years, and that was 1990. So I kind of got stuck in the area, but it's worked out. I spent 9 years at the research center, and then 5 of us from the research center founded Kitwire. We've tried to make, and I think that's made it a neat company, culture-wise. The fact that we had sort of 5 founders, I've seen this happen a lot with people that come from other small companies where there might be one person that started it. I call it the Michael Jackson effect, which is where everyone in the company is sort of afraid to tell him that he's being kind of crazy. And then you're going to have, personality areas where you might come down a little too hard on employees for this or that, but with 5 of us, any dumb idea I have was shot down pretty much immediately. So it's sort of a collaborative environment, and that environment, I think, we've tried to hold through in the company and reduce bureaucracy and make it a very, any employee can come in my office and I talk to all the employees, so it's not, it's very, we try to keep it very flat and provide, we're competing with the likes of Google and Facebook, so we have free snacks and stuff in the kitchen, and we also do some other weird things that other companies don't. We actually pay all of our employees hourly, even the engineers. And this sort of came from GE. One of the things we saw that we didn't like when we were there, basically you could work, if you worked less than 40 hours, they would dock your pay. If you worked more than 40 hours, you got to keep your job. It was sort of expected that you'd be doing a little bit of overtime. We always thought that was a little bit unfair, and that if someone puts in a 50 or 60 hour week to push some project over the finish line, and that's going to happen occasionally, they should be compensated for it. So we do that. I think I'll end it there.
Thank you. So I think if I translate your question, you're basically asking what's our why.
Yes,
Okay. So for me personally, I was in the semiconductor industry in another company 11 years ago, and in this industry, there's a lot of consolidation going on. It's just so expensive to be at the leading edge, and there are fewer and fewer companies. And at that time, I was a technologist, was not a manager, and I wanted to be at the leading edge of technology. That was just it for me. And that's where I wanted to be, so that's why I joined. It was then AMD, and then turned into Global Foundries after that. And now in the world, there are 4 companies that are in the world that can work on leading edge semiconductors. Global Foundries is one of those companies. So everybody else is behind. It's coming from, it's just too expensive to stay at the leading edge. It's very, very expensive in this industry. So that was my why. My why is changing a little bit as a people manager, but I'm also a technology manager too. So it's kind of a mix. But now you've got some of the team goals involved. But that's not why I joined the company. The original was I wanted to be in a company at the leading edge.
I'm not a founder of the company, so I did actually have to go through the interview process to land the job here. And it was actually kind of a funny story. I had spent so much time on the other side of the interviewing table that when it was my turn to look for a job, I got a little bit nervous saying, how am I going to do on the other end? I'm so used to being the one asking the questions. And actually I had an interview lined up with the College of Nanoscale Science and Engineering to head up their talent acquisition when they were just kind of getting off the ground and running. And I said, well, that's a job I really want. I should do a practice interview. So I got contacted by this rinky-dink company, and I really had no interest. They had an awful website, tiny little building, everybody was crammed inside, and I just really went as a practice interview. And I was out to lunch with the CEO, and I was just really buying into their mission and why they're here. And he was just saying, I want our customers to be raving fans. Like, I literally want our customers to be so excited about their experience with us that they want to get an Automate tattoo. So he kept saying, my mission in life is I want a dealership that their employees are going out and getting Automate tattoos. And he said, but I believe that the way that we're going to get those raving fans is we're going to grow under the belief that your customers will never love your company until the employees love it first. So the way that we're going to grow is we are going to treat our employees like rock stars. We're going to value them, and we're going to basically put our employees first. Our customers will always come second, and our majority shareholder, owner of the company, is always going to come third. Because if we treat these people right, the profits, the software, the support, everything is going to follow, and that's kind of our focus. And I still get kind of goosebumps when I talk about that conversation, and that's really what got me here, and that's really the core of our culture.
Good answer.
Okay. Can you speak a little bit to how helpful or not helpful at all, if it's not, if entry-level folks have experience with cloud providers and infrastructure provisioning technologies, things like Ansible and Packer and build servers like TeamCity? Like, is that something that might set someone apart, or are you looking more for just core programming skills in your entry-level people? If that question made any sense.
That totally makes sense. And we're seeing a lot of that, so that would definitely help you at Kitler, and I can answer that.
Okay.
I don't do a lot of software.
It's one of those things that can be a differentiator right now. Everybody's moving over to the cloud, everybody's going virtual. We do a lot of direct work with AWS. So that's one of those things that can really help to separate somebody else out, but it really also depends on the position. Whether or not that skill has relevance to the position, different companies will put different weight on it.
I assume somewhere in my company that those would be valuable, but to our group it's not. I mean, it's just not a match.
Okay.
But it would be very valuable someplace.
Yes, absolutely.
There's a question in the left. First of all, thank you for being here and helping us moving our careers. The one question that I have for you guys is, from your experience of interviewing a candidate, what things did you observe that a candidate should not be doing in his or her interview? What advice would you give us on that? Okay, so the question was, when you're looking at an applicant and their resume, no, it's not the resume. While you are interviewing a candidate. Okay, while you're interviewing a candidate, what should they not
avoid?
avoid? What should they avoid here?
I'll jump out about this. Don't lie. In all honesty, I think that that's really the number one thing. So there's actually a survey, I gave a speech about this that I travel all around. And research, they polled college students, and it said that 70% of them said that they would lie in order to land the job that they wanted. And you have to remember, you know, if you tell one lie during the interview, even if it's, you know, a little white lie, or, you know, you tweak your resume like you had said, you add a skill, you know, put something on there because, oh, my roommate took a C++ class, I walked by his book every day, so, you know, I'm going to put C++ on my resume. Once you've established that you're not going to be truthful during the interview, then we have to start to begin to doubt what other things were they not truthful. So that's the one smoking gun, you know, or whatever that we saw. Now I have to go back and doubt everything else, you know, that they had said. So remember that eventually everything, you know, that you are portraying in the interview, everything that you put on the resume, eventually you're going to be forced to prove it. People are going to be able to back things up. I mean, I just had somebody recently that, you know, said that they were the founder of a, you know, a club at a different university, and I said, oh, the way that they were describing it, I didn't buy it, so I went to the website, and they had the founder's name right up there, and his name is way at the bottom, as somebody that had just joined this year. So some of these things are so very easy to prove right now. So just be honest, be open. You know, nobody expects that you're going to have every single skill. You're going to be a master of every single skill. So just tell us what experience and skills you have, what you don't, and just be honest through the process.
I would say, since with all of us, culture is a really big thing. Showing some personality in the interview is definitely important. So people who come into an interview and don't even crack a smile or completely avoid eye contact, it would definitely be a no-no for us.
Sure, I think I'd second that. I mean, you know, nothing worse than taking a candidate out to lunch and saying, you know, well, now's your turn to ask questions about kitware. And I've had people do that, and it's just like, you know, I might as well just walk out of the restaurant there. I mean, you know, you gotta engage people, you know, ask them questions, and seem interested, and try to come up with good questions, important questions, because you're making a huge life decision, you know, on both sides, right? You're committing to this company. You're gonna, you know, it's gonna go on your resume. It's gonna be part of your permanent record that you work for this company. So you want to make sure that you're buying into the company mission, and that you're excited about that, and that you're engaged, that you want to make sure you'll fit in, or there are people with similar interests in the company. So there's hundreds of really good questions to ask, you know, and so ask them and be excited and enthusiastic.
I don't know if I have really anything to add. It's kind of a hard way to ask the question, because I think some of the things that I think I would say to avoid are just, I believe, are common sense. You don't lie, right? Don't bring up non-relevant, controversial topics. Again, that would be a common sense thing, I suppose. Avoid being unprepared. So the positive spin is be prepared. You know, come in with an agenda of questions. I think we've all said this is very important. Is don't try to think of it as the morning of. Understand what the company is. Have your list of the questions. I do this with all of my reports, actually. I have one-on-ones with them regularly. I tell them, bring an agenda. The ones that do have a much more effective one-on-one meeting. Same thing with an interview. Come with your questions already formulated, rather than try to bring them up off the fly as you go. Now it may spur new questions, but have that initial set of questions prepared before you even get on site.
Your questions may be answered too when the people that you're speaking with are discussing the company. So, but that's okay. But just even having a notepad and a pen with you, taking notes, and just being engaged in the conversation is important.
Add one more thing. You know, following instructions for the interview. Make sure you know how to get there. Don't show up late. Don't get lost. You know, things can happen. You know. Yeah, I think one of my intern jobs that I actually did get, I got in a minor car accident on the way there and ended up missing the interview, and then I showed up the next day to make up the interview, and then I went into HR, and apparently the guy going around HR and like pulled resumes out and just brought me in without getting HR involved, because I hadn't brought his number, got him in trouble. For some reason they still hired me. Mainly I think it was because I spent that summer doing C programming over the summer. But yeah, do your do your homework and make sure that you know what you want to ask about the company.
Let me just say that we've got about time for one more question. Afterwards, I want to, after we wrap up the panel discussion here, I just want to make sure that you're aware of that. Bill from Kitware and Natalie from Infrastructure are going to talk briefly after the panel about open positions and current needs at their companies. So if you're interested in that, I encourage you to stick around after the panel and hear what they have to say.
It's often recommended that our resume should be of one page. So what things should be there in our resume apart from our projects and experience like training or internship? What else should be there? And if the position is for suppose software engineering, so our project should be related to that only, because putting everything in one page is difficult. So what should be there actually?
Sure, I think one page is nice, especially from an undergraduate. I mean, if you're not listing a huge bunch of publications or something like that for a research position, then you should be able to fit it all on one page. You probably don't have that much experience. You just need to be concise and list things like your GPA is probably a good thing to have on there. Any honors that you've gotten are on there. Definitely any internships and any experience, any projects, any open source projects that someone can go look at. If you've got something on GitHub, and make sure it's good and not just some class project or something like that. But something interesting that's got some need to it, then you would put that on there. But one page can be pretty concise.
So like our extracurricular activities or certain certifications should also be mentioned in the resume or not?
Sure, yeah.
And when we are writing something about our projects or internship, do we have to put explanation as well, or just the headline? And
1 to 2 bullets, I think, would be enough. You can also tailor your resume to the specific position that you're applying for. So if your resume is a little bit longer for one position, but you have a specific project experience that would relate to that position that you're applying for more, highlight that, and then you can take out some bullets for other projects or internships that you worked on. So you can kind of tailor that.
One thing I'll just add to that really quickly is if you do have very relevant experience that matches the job description, don't feel like you have to pull that off. I think that the whole one-page concept came from the days of when you were printing up a resume and bringing it in, but for the most part now we're scrolling on the screen, so it doesn't matter if we're scrolling 3 or 4 more lines. I'd rather have the relevant information, but this is just going to confuse you because it just goes to show that it's really a matter of preference. Where resume length doesn't matter to me, for other people it might be more important, so there really is no right or wrong answer, unfortunately.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't even know what a one-page resume looks like anymore. But what I would say is you want to have your most important stuff right up front on that first page. What I'm finding in some trends, and I don't know if somebody's coaching this, but and maybe I'm old school, but I'm seeing a lot of all these fluff type words, putting these paragraphs up front. No. For me, I'm looking for, okay, what did what's your relevant education? What's your relevant work experience? What are the special projects you've worked on? That other stuff, yeah, I expect you to be an enthusiastic, well-communicated person. That's just a given, right? So you don't need to tell me that up front with all these fluff words. I'm seeing that a lot more lately. I don't know if you guys are too. But
a lot of long objectives.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I think get your important stuff right up front. The other things like publications, patents, things like that come, especially as you go through grad school, you'll have more of those things. But those can come afterwards. And that's when, when somebody's digging deeper because they like what you had on the first page, they start looking at your publications.
I guess the thing to do is think of it as an advertisement, right? It's not a resume. It's an advertisement for you. So you want it to try to stand out as much as possible. You have to highlight the important stuff, which is why I'd still, say one page is nice because it'll force you to be concise and to pull out the important things. 2 pages is fine too, as long as you put those important things up front. But if you don't have an extensive amount of history or whatever, then it'll help keep you concise and to the point. And run it over with a friend. Go find other people or other students to look at it, professors. Bring it to a professor and say, hey, I put together this resume. What do you think? Does this highlight the skills that you think I should be highlighting? Get second opinions.
There'll be a lot of on-campus events, whether it be resume critiques and whatnot.
All right, thank you for the questions. I would like to now introduce Nina, who is our vice chair of our IEEE chapter.
Hi. So I hope everybody learned something today, and first, and to end with this event, I'd like to give our guest here a small gift. So can I just call Professor Mughal to just give one of those gifts?
This is really on behalf of both the student branch and the IEEE Schenectady region, just as a way of saying thank you to the guests for busy schedules and taking the time to share this advice and letting you know that it's really appreciated. And this is kind of a small token of the students and the university and the College of Engineering and Applied Sciences appreciation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, I encourage you.
Okay, so everybody, we have a lot of pizza. Okay, we don't want to waste it. Please, the dinner is on us. Point number 2. I really cannot thank the panelists here today. I mean, I understand you guys are doing some fantastic work, and taking out some time to talk with the next people who are going to join your company is a really good thing to do, but you took out your time and for all of us. So I'm glad everybody came here. So we are IEEE chapter here. I really encourage everybody to join the IEEE section. We do a lot of events. This is just one of them. And if you become an IEEE member, you can attend any of the IEEE conferences, IEEE meetings or the events that have happened for free. So this was supposed to be free, but okay, that's what we do. Apart from that, thank you and CFCC everyone again. I'd like to say everyone again, but just wait for a while. I'd like to invite Bill to talk about his. You said you would talk about the. Okay, right. Please come here.
Yeah, so I would believe that would conclude the panel portion, and we encourage you to stick around if you'd like to hear about job openings at Kitware and as well as infrastructure. Okay?
Can I get one good photo of the panel?
Yeah.
To make the students who did not show up jealous. 1, 2, 3. That was great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you guys.
Thank you guys. Yes.
Thank you. So, Bill?
I think the whole panel deserves a round of applause.
So yeah, I just wanted to say a few words. If you went to jobs.kitware.com, that shows our open positions. We do some internships, so keep an eye on those. Right now, we have a high demand for computer vision researchers, people with deep learning and machine learning experience we're looking for. Some new things, if you're interested in Kitware, that'd be something good to get into. And just basic software development skills, some of the cloud-based stuff, C++, we're also C++ house, but also a lot of Python going on. And I've got some Kitware job flyers that I'll leave on the table and people can take. And if you want to grab me, I'll hang around the back of the room for a little bit. That's all I have to say.
addition to the kitware flyer, we're also going to be probably handing out whole pizza pies.
Are many of you graduating this upcoming May? We have several different entry-level positions available, whether you're looking to gain into technical support, network engineering. One of the large programs that we're recruiting for at this time, we were contracted out by Microsoft to provide small support for small to mid-sized businesses globally that have Office 365 subscriptions. So in this position, you get to use all of Microsoft's back-end knowledge documents to troubleshoot the administrators at the company's problems. So if they're having problems when they're implementing or configuring Office 365, they'll be able to call the support and you walk them through the problem start to finish. What's unique about this position is that different than other help desk roles is that you take the call from start to finish through inception until it's complete. So typically they'll take between 4 to 7 calls a day. And they're really lengthy and complex. They could be on the phone with somebody for 30 minutes or they can hang up and call them back the next day to resolve their issue. So it's a really cool opportunity to get in on Office 365 and emerging cloud technologies. And who else doesn't want to say they've worked for Microsoft before? We do have those opportunities where we're going to be hiring about 200 people within the next year or so. Right now we're at 65. We operate 24/7 for that program. So we do have shifts around the clock. Even if you are in school and looking to pick up a job, we'll be willing to talk to you about flexibility with schedules and things like that. Other positions that we're recruiting for right now, technical specialist, which is kind of like a level 2, level 3 position before it gets to the higher engineer. So that's a good entry-level position to get into. Probably Q3 will be moving towards some software developers if that's where you guys really are. We do a lot of networking and infrastructure-based projects, things with AWS, machine learning, things like that. If you guys have questions, I have job descriptions of the technical support specialist position, which is the Microsoft Office 365 ambassador role. I have my business card up there if you want to take a look at our opportunities online and some pens.